All right, welcome to the new episode of Data in the Hallway podcast. Once again, I'm Ray Pike, community manager at PingCAP, and welcome to and happy to welcome my colleague Fan Wang. And we want to talk about OSS Insight. If in case you don't know, this is open source dashboard for projects that are on GitHub that we developed a while ago, and this is sort of follow on to our previous episode on open source community metrics featuring Matt Germonprez. So, fine, I'll let you quickly introduce yourself, and then we can get started. So.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the invitation, Ray. So this is Fan Wang. I'm I think one of the leadership team here in the PingCAP, managing both of the engineering and a little bit on the product side as well. Yeah. So I will be helping to talk about the OSS Insight today.
Right. Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like, fortunately, you and I are both in the Bay Area, so we get to see each other quite often when you're not traveling. But it's good to have you. And then, yeah, I mean, I met a number of product managers at PingCAP. You definitely very on heavy on the technical side, so it's good to have you. So yeah, tell us about OSS Insight, like what it is, and like I think like a lot of people, I love to hear like the origin stories or how projects got started. So tell us about what this is and how the early days of the project.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll start with a story probably.
Good.
Or maybe just some of the background, the birth of the OSS Insight, right? So, yeah, first of all, we are a bunch of the developers within the company who are very, very passionate and developing our own open source project, which is mainly the TiDB, like TiKV, etc., right? And when we are getting together to talk about the technical issues, we are also, yeah, we'll be talking about some other interesting open source projects. And a few we are actively contributing to, like say etcd, rocksdb, and even Rust and Flink, right? So when we were talking about these, we sometimes try to figure out more and about these. I mean, sometimes popular repo, sometimes like the newly kind of booming repos. We want to figure out, hey, what is a trend? Say, for example, what is the popularity in terms of the GitHub stars, and who are contributing to it? Like also the PR activities, the engineering efficiencies, and also like more if we are looking to a already established repo, we want to know the early days, the history of the project, right? So yeah, it's pretty much following the similar pattern for any of the project, but sometimes we will find it very difficult to figure out these stats or the insights directly.
Right.
Our CEO, Max Liu, is one of the team member who are very, very interested in these insights, and he tried to dig a lot of the insights by himself.
Right.
And just one day he's saying that, hey, since it's kind of challenging for us to now figure out all of the insights right away, why not we get together and build a easy to use dashboard for like one-stop insights mining, and then we can also open it to all of the open source like developers or enthusiasts, right? So I think this is the background of why
Right.
we are building a OSS Insight dashboard.
Cool. Yeah, I mean this sort of I mean I mentioned the previous episode with Matt Germonprez. There's been a lot of academic research and there's a proliferation of organizations or even vendors. I mean, as a community manager, I remember like a couple of years ago, I would get pinged by people like via email or LinkedIn trying to sell like yet another like sort of open source community dashboard. So it's become quite an industry. That sort of quieted down in terms of getting like practically sales calls and here's another dashboard you as a community member manager can use. Um, and even a lot of open source communities, like, Kubernetes is a good example. They have their own sort of internal dashboard that they developed and uh, over the past couple of years. So it's there's a lot of interest and discussion. And then it's relative. I don't want to say easy. It might seem easy from outsider people, but it's relatively quick to sort of easy to bring stuff like a dashboards up pretty quickly. You have a lot of tools available out there, whether it's open source or not, that you can use to get insights. But the one that works for your purposes or your community, that's sometimes like pretty hard. So yeah, not surprised. Like had a couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to kind of ask Max about this as well, and he said the same thing that you just mentioned, Fan, is that it he wanted a tool that he can leverage so that he can get insights into different communities, but he also wanted this to follow our tradition of sort of contributing everything back to open source so other people can use it. So yeah, it was pretty cool and love hearing those uh, like origin stories. And yeah, so and then like sort of let's move to, so once like Max kind of wanted to see something develop. So what was the early days like? What approaches we take to develop the technology stack, or how to what kind of components are included in OSS Insight? So,
Yeah. So I think one of the beauty or kind of the uniqueness of the OSS Insight when we were
mhm,
discussing in the early days in terms of the designing is that we want to actually stay up to date, right?
mhm,
So we want to drill down not only the historical data, but also the latest, how it
right.
is, especially for the trend and the PR
Mhm,
details, right? So we want to drill into the pretty much most recent data. So to fulfill this requirement, we need to actually build a um, pipeline and to find the right data source to do
mhm,
the complete analysis, right? So I think we started to with some pretty good researches, and we
mhm,
found that for the historical data, we have a data source called GH archive.
mhm.
That has been utilized not only by us, but also by other projects, I think, including CNCF, its own kind of a open source dashboard, right?
Right.
So, but that only covered about the historical, the static snapshots, I would say. And then the next question would be where the latest will be coming from. And we figured out that the GitHub itself has a events API where it has a pretty much, I would say, real-time
Mhm,
um, stats. Um, um, we can be actually analyzing from the API itself, extracting and analyzing ourselves, right? So by putting both of the parts together, we should be able to accommodate our requirements, not only to drill into the history for all of the details, but also stay up to date for the latest trends
right.
and activities. So
Right.
I think this is where we are starting. And yeah, interestingly, while we are digging further into our kind of requirements, we found that, hey, on the historical side, from the GH archive, when we extract all of the data, uh,
Mhm,
it has an astonishing more than 6 billion records. So
right.
that's huge, huge of
Right.
data, right?
Right.
And on the latest side, right? So the GitHub event activity, it actually generates in a speed of like 300K per hour for the records. So
Right.
still quite a bit. And remember, it's consistently being generated, right? So
Right.
it brings a little bit of the technical challenge in terms of both of the scalability side for the 6 billion, and also to accommodate the needs for querying about the like latest like ongoing data itself. Yeah, so I think that's one of the technical challenges, right?
Right.
And the second thing is that our big boss Max
Right.
is very, I would say, committed to execution. So
Right.
he actually wants, well, not only like he kind of requires us to move fast, but also like sometimes he tries himself to steal code nowadays, right? So I think
Right.
he wanted to work with us and then try to like yeah, even build a prototype within 2 days.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
good news
that
and bad
actually
news,
gives
right?
us,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
quite a pushing or demanding deadline, right?
Right.
So so we need to manage both of the technical challenges
Right.
and also the project timeline requirements, right? So just starting from this point, we figured out, hey, from the database side, our own product, which is called TiDB, is a could be a good starting point because of two things. The first thing is it's a NewSQL database, distributed database. It is pretty transparent to the application, right? So periodically it can be it is able to handle the horizontal scaling problem without any trouble. So instead of like usually in the MySQL case, right? So you have to do the manual sharding yourself, and then you need to very carefully design for the sharding keys fulfill your needs for specific queries, right? So TiDB itself will be able to handle all of the things by itself. So that's compared to the MySQL.
Right.
Usually when we are saying that, hey, it's large scale of data, why not we are considering the NoSQL database, right? So on the, yeah, definitely we have considered about this fact as well. But in terms of the NoSQL, it is able to handle the SQL, I mean, the scalability issues pretty good, right? But on the other side, when it comes to the analytical part, it is very difficult to write a like some perfect queries to get the results in a good manner, especially in a like you need to basically design the queries very carefully to get what you want.
Right.
So just to say, yeah, about the considering about these facts, we are thinking, hey, maybe we should try to start with TiDB first, right? So one thing is that on the scalability side, again, it's pretty much easy to scale and handle 6 billions of the records.
Right.
It's pretty confidently without any trouble. On the second end, it is transparent to the application. So yeah, the developer will not need to do any of the extra steps. So just to treat it as a single node or the single cluster itself, and then you should be able to, yeah, go from there.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's how the database side was being considered.
Right.
And yeah, on the application side, we chose pretty much a very popular framework like React,
Right.
Docsaurus, like the MUI, etc. Right. So basically, using the static site generator with some tweaks. So I think that is the reason we are able to pretty much build a very basic prototype and make sure it is working
Mhm.
within even 2 days, right? So
Right, right,
everything will be working from that
right.
that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was told that, like, I think this is in one of the blog posts. Max kind of suggested that we should do this in a week, which is,
Yeah,
which I'm sure wasn't a lot of fun for developers that are working on it. And yeah, yeah, a lot of these tools like that you mentioned that are just available out there. I mean, I think it just sort of demonstrates that, like, with careful planning, it doesn't have to be this doesn't have to be months long project. And then, but I mean, I'm sure people did put a lot of work in some late nights, but yeah, it's amazing that they were able to do this within several days to get
yeah,
started.
exactly. I read the blog post as well, right? It
Yeah,
mentioned 1 week, but in fact, I think
yeah,
internally it's just within 2 days for the very,
yeah,
very basic prototype. And I
right.
think for the to the 1 week, we already achieved some pretty much like good design with some
Yeah,
front end
right.
refinement already.
Right. Yeah. For those of you that are following or listening or watching this on YouTube, like, I'll put the links to not just the OSS Insight website, but I mean, there are, like, you can get to these blog posts that Fan and I are talking about to get more details, and also link to the repo as well. And yeah, and I mean, I think when I first heard this is sort of way of, I mean, in the US, we use the term dog fooding. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the word, or eating your own dog food. So basically trying your own product for new use cases or new applications. So I think we were able to sort of validate, is TiDB the right database? And I was surprised that that was even in question, because I figured, well, we're at PingCAP, of course we'll use TiDB as a database, but I went through the effort of making sure that, yeah, it's able to scale, and supports the use case there that we're looking for. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. Showcasing another application or use case where we're able to sort of dog food our own database product. So
Right. So one thing I will be adding here is that yeah, uh the TiDB itself is not only like very, very good, super good at scaling,
mhm,
resolving these huge amount of data issues, but also it has the add-on, like we call it HTAP, the hybrid transactional and
mhm,
analytical processing
right,
capability. So that means when we are adding some like ad hoc queries,
right,
it still has good support for
right,
these. And well, while we are actually dog fooding, we found it super useful, especially for me as a engineering manager and also the product manager, right? So um, on both of the end, on the product end, I also want to like look for the other repo to see what is the new trend going over
right,
there. And
right,
on the engineering side, I want to understand, especially my team,
mhm,
how the development efficiency is, and
right,
when they're encountering some
mhm,
issues, and also like from the high level perspective, I want to sometimes learn from uh, some good and established repo to
mhm,
um, basically learn from their history. Sometimes they're keeping developing things
mhm,
for say a year or two, right? And later on, we have seen they have accumulated quite a lot of bugs. So they
mhm,
stopped adding a significant amount of the new code lines, but
mhm,
sometimes they actually focusing on the stability. And then they will do. We sometimes we usually observe they will pause a little bit and then
mhm,
focus on a stability blitz
mhm,
usually for a few months also. So
right,
this inspired me also to think about, hey, from the product perspective, from the engineering perspective, how I could be taking the same approach and then
right,
focusing very, very heavily on the stability and reliability side at
right,
a appropriate time, right?
right. Cool. Yeah, I think. when I first, like, I was still interviewing for my current job at PingCAP. I found out about OSS Insight. I think my favorite part was integration with OpenAI. Because one of the challenges I've seen with different, like I mentioned, I've seen different open source dashboards. One of the things I struggle with is like some tools would have a different definition of a term, like even what seems pretty obvious terms like contribution or contributor. Like each tool has a different interpretation. So being able to sort of ask the question in English, right? I mean, I wanted, like, for example, like, who is the most like active reviewer in the past 12 months? Like, I don't have to like know the term. I can just write it in English and it sort of translates into SQL that I can review, which I thought was like really cool. I mean, AI is sort of the buzzword these days, but I thought that was kind of a easy way for even layperson to use a tool and get insights into the project. So,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, yeah.
Well, to be honest, I think we are the one of the most early adopter, at least in the
Mhm,
database domain, to
mhm.
integrate the OpenAI API,
Right.
the OSS Insight to accommodate the like requirement Ray you just mentioned, right? So,
Mhm,
um, yeah, I mean, initially without the OpenAI, we
right.
just provided some like uh fixed query to accommodate or like to show the trending, to show the PR details, to show the contributor distribution, etc.
Mhm,
But nowadays, with the AI integrated, we are able to actually provide the capability for literally any of the question
mhm.
the user will be interested, and then
Right.
that translates to a ad hoc query into
Right.
the database itself. And I
Right.
think the TiDB is now handling pretty well
Right.
for all of these.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was really cool. I mean, the other thing, I mean, we're talking about dog fooding earlier, and this, like, it's, I think within the next month or so, we're gonna GA our serverless product. And the OSS Insight team actually sort of went through the journey of going from, TiDB cloud to serverless and see how or if that's going to help the OSS Insight team. And yeah, I mean, I think there was a blog post that was published a couple of weeks ago, but you'll do a much better job of explaining like what our experience was than I would. So
Yeah, we can also share the link to the post.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there was a very interesting, and also to me it's a pretty impressive story.
Hmm.
Where OSS Insight project got unexpectedly like uh a lot of the traffic
Right,
because of the like one day we were someone else were posting in the hackers news, and we got
right,
like ranked in the top 10
right,
the trending news over there, right? So we got
right,
a lot of the clicks during that
right.
time. Yeah, and um I couldn't recall the exact number, but to my memory, it's probably around like 750 percent times more than usual of the traffic.
Right.
It's suddenly I think the server got hit, and then like we see a big hike
Hmm.
all of the resource utilization. But
Hmm.
the interesting thing or the beauty for the serverless at the time is that it is able to scale right away for the resources, for the clusters,
Hmm.
like for the servers required to accommodate for these suddenly increasing traffic.
Hmm.
So yeah, during that time, literally we didn't see any of the spike in the query latency,
Right.
etc. So there's zero impact to our end users. So I think that is super impressive, at least to me, in terms of the elasticity
Right.
and also the availability,
Mhm.
being able to scale just for the business needs, right?
Mhm.
So I think right after that peak time,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, we were able to see his serverless cluster got scaled in directly.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
saves us also money. I
Right,
think,
right.
yeah, I think interesting fact is that earlier on when we were in our dedicated cluster tier, we
Mhm.
basically reserve a dedicated server, some dedicated servers for our usage. So OSS Insight is not a very, I wouldn't say it's a very, very heavy resource consuming application, although yeah, we did have a pretty good traction and traffics during even during the normal hours.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but it in terms of capacity planning, resource planning, it's kind of very difficult to plan, right? So
Mhm.
usually we still need to reserve some of the headroom in terms of
Mhm.
resource. So that's the reason I think we need to pay extra for the yeah for some things like that, right?
Right.
So usually I think during that time our monthly pay is around like 11K US
Okay.
dollars a month. So that's
Right.
quite a lot.
Right.
Nowadays, when we have moved to our serverless tier, I think the billing, at least for pretty much the last months, it's kind of around $3,000.
Wow.
That's a
Huge,
big save, right?
huge
Almost
savings.
70% of the save.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I mean that's it's amazing. Like in theory, that's what serverless is supposed to do, but
Yeah,
it's really good to see it in practice, right? And that
yeah,
yeah,
totally.
that's awesome. So yeah, and then we talked about Max and others, making sure that this is open source and this is available for everyone to provide feedback. And, uh, like, you mentioned like incident with Hacker News, but we got a lot of followers on Twitter as well. I mean, what are some examples of like good community feedback that we benefited from? And we obviously want to welcome more feedback and more contributions in the future, but if there's like one that you want to sort of point to, like what sort of comes to your mind?
Yeah, if I have to talk about one thing, I think it is there is some recent discussion and also like a mini project we have been
Mhm.
working on with our open source community.
Mhm.
I think it's called OSS Insight Lite. So
Mhm.
it's a feature request from our users, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's pretty much from our open source community saying that, hey, we have fancy stats for the repo, right? And also like for the if we query for the individual developer, we were able to pull out the data, right?
Mhm.
So why not like we kind of customized this as a mini dashboard so
Mhm.
that I as an open source developer, I can plug in itself into the GitHub into our profile page, etc. Right?
Right.
So it yeah, because of OSS Insight has all of these I would say underlying infra pretty ready. So we just need
Right.
to kind of wrap it up and then provide it as a plugin. And we have a open source project already now
Right.
ongoing. I can share the link to you, Ray, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we'll be happy to include it in the YouTube page as well. And you kind of stole my thunder. Perfect example. We actually have a meetup, virtual meetup next week. We're teaming up with the Vercel team to talk about how you can build a personalized like a GitHub dashboard using OSS Insight Lite. So if you're able to make it, like I believe it's on. I'm looking at my calendar on the 22nd. But even if you can't make it through Meetup.com, you should be able to find a video on the same YouTube page where you're finding these recordings. So yeah, that's perfect. I've heard like something similar from other colleagues too. Like that's one of the most frequent feedbacks from a lot of the users of OSS Insight. because you know, I think they'll, especially young developers, they contribute to a lot of different open source projects, and it'll be kind of good way. It's a good way to sort of highlight your work, right? Yeah, I think it's a cool. I mean, nice feedback from the community, but I mean, definitely looking forward to that meetup next week, and showcase what we can do with OSS Insight Lite. So yeah, so I think that's my last, like, a sort of technical, quote unquote technical question for the podcast. And I started this tradition, like, I don't know how long we're going to do this for, but fortunately we've had guests from different parts of the world, and I know, I mean, we're both in the Bay Area, but you live in Foster City. I don't know if that many people know where, or what, you know, where Foster City is, but the way I sort of associate it with is sort of, I pass by it on my way to the airport, or drive to San Francisco. But so what's something about Foster City that you like? It might be your favorite restaurant or a good place that you go to with your family. And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's an interesting question. Yeah, thanks, Ray.
yeah,
So yeah, Foster City is a small town. I think located just in the kind of middle of San Francisco and San Jose, right?
yeah.
So the I think the kind of unique one of the unique thing about Foster City is that it's actually an island, right?
Right,
So that means we have a lot of water.
right. Okay, cool.
So one of the very most beautiful place in Foster City is called Leo Ryan Park. It's where the I think City Hall building is located near, and also like my son's like after school
Oh, okay.
is. It's a very beautiful lake,
Yeah.
and also uh, I think it also has some good info, a facility for the playground, so kids
Oh,
love it.
okay.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
only the small age kids, but also like the teenagers and the young people, because it has a basketball
Mm.
court, it has a skate court, and it has a like tennis.
Mhm.
I think people can also play table tennis and mahjong there.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Nice.
so I think that's something I just want to introduce.
Nice. Nice. Well, don't underestimate the power of playground for, I mean, especially for people who have kids, it's massively important. And it's, yeah, and thanks for sharing that, because I usually, you know, on my way to the airport especially, there's usually a congestion on 101 and 92, right? Because
Yeah.
that I complain about, oh no, there's another traffic. But yeah, next time I should, actually make a stop in Foster City and enjoy the island view. So
Yeah, one last thing about
yeah,
like the Leo Ryan part in Foster
yeah,
City, because
yeah,
it has a very beautiful lake. I think
yeah.
people are sometimes kayaking,
Oh,
also
okay.
like
Cool.
boat racing there.
Oh, okay.
And
Nice.
that's something fun, and I could also associate with the upcoming Chinese festival. It's called the,
Oh,
I think, Dragon Boat.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That's a new holiday, right? Like, so
yeah,
it's cool. Like, yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, finally, it's good to have you on. We just saw each other a few days ago in the office, but I've been wanting to have you on this podcast for a long time. So thanks for coming, and I'll probably hit you up for another episode at some point. So
yeah, sounds
thanks for
good.
coming.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Ray. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
thanks.
all for listening. Yeah.
Bye.